Alrighty, we are rolling. Greetings, greetings. That's you, Gemini. This is Tarot Illumination, and this is your mini generic love and relationship report for September 2018. You know the drill. You've been here before, I'm sure. The routine is watch for your sun, moon, and rising placements, especially if they're all different. Also, reinterpret these however you want in a way that works for you. The important thing is that these are for you and you get the best you can out of them. Also, cross-watch for your significant others. Okay, it can really help in relationships. Also, singles, you can watch this too if you feel like it, as long as you allow for the laws of attraction and understand that you're always radiating energy, and then the question is, what are you getting reflected back to you? Okay, so we don't do much about the laws of attraction here, but you can study those too if you want. We're going to do this with no jumpers, no flyers, no oracles, no reversals. There's not enough time, space, or room as far as we're concerned here. We love the cards the way they're made. And by the way, I'm going to invite you to bring your invisible friends into the reading, okay? Because that's what we do here. Before we get to the cards, I just want to give you a really quick Tarot Illumination overview with an astro doodle here. Okay, it's for September 18. It's generic. This is just one doodle for the whole month because it's quite different from July and August. Things are shifting around quite a bit in September. In August, we had a wall-to-wall retrogrades, and we're still coming through the eclipses and everything. But in September, a lot of the retrogrades are fading away. The big ones are still out there, but the personal planets are getting into motion again. We're coming out of the eclipses, so now we're dealing with the aftershocks of the eclipses. So everything might feel smoother, okay? The thing is, do not be fooled, because just below the surface of what apparently feels smooth and lovely is an awful lot of rip currents and very challenging dynamics that are still going through the month. Okay, you need to be aware of this because a lot of these can be triggered at any moment, especially when the moon passes over any of these trigger points. For everybody, okay? So for you, Gemini, we picked out some really, I consider these key dates for the month. I pull these out for you. September the 2nd, there is a very large T-square on your sun that involves the Pisces-Virgo axis, and while the moon is in Gemini, sorry, not your sun, when the moon is in Gemini, okay? So when the moon is over here, on the early part of the month, September the 2nd, Gemini moon will be here. It's going to be a really hard T-square like this, okay, sitting right on top of you. And guess what? Just a little while later, the moon is going to be up here in Sagittarius. And look what that does. Bam, bam, bam. That's another really hard T-square facing you from the other direction. So these could be very challenging moments, and you could be really easily caught up in these without knowing it, like little landmines or booby traps. So be very, very careful throughout the month, not just because of all of this, but for the little trigger points that I'm singling out specifically for you, Gemini. And another one, here's a little treat for you at the end of the month. There is more or less what I consider a loose grand air trine. You can look those up if you want to, but it's between Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, and it's all happening at once around that time. So you might feel it really much more towards the end of the month that things are in your favor. Also, towards the end of the month, the sun will be moving here into Libra, your house of love, lovey-dovey stuff, true love, and creative self-expression and things like that. So hang in, The Pisces-Virgo axis is theoretically very, very stressful for you, and it's not going away just yet. So please allow for that. It's not sitting on you directly, but it's coming at you from the hard square angles, okay? So just be aware, all right? So I hope that helps you in some way. Hope you get something out of that. Just a little bit. It's like getting a few little tidbits to get you through the month. Okay, so here we go. Cards were well shuffled. You're a witness, okay? I saw them, you saw them, and all our angels are here. Tarot Illumination, Team Tarot Illumination is here. So let's go at it, okay? Bless these cards. Bless this deck. Bless you, Gemini. Bless Tarot Illumination. Bless the channel. Bless all the gadgets and cameras and wires and electricity and everything like that makes it happen, okay? So over here, We have the energy that you're radiating as love, okay? There's other energies too, but we're going to focus on the love frequency, okay? Same for the significant over here. Same deep down for you over here, what are you radiating? Deep down for the other, what are they radiating? And at the core here itself, the relationship, what is that radiating? So we're using this crucible spread. This is the crucible. It is a heavy duty bowl type structure that is able to withstand and contain the dynamics of the intimacy and separation and all the energy that comes from that inside a relationship. So in a loving relationship, you invest in the crucible itself as opposed to like just going direct face to face with each other. So this would create a sort of momentum, prospects ongoing. If you think of this as a living thing, and you're always putting energy in and energy's coming out. And we're going to look over here at circumstantial energy as well. That's kind of around you, like what is pervasive around you at the moment. So we have the Hermit here. Okay, so it's an indication. My feeling is that it would be okay for you to feel a bit awkward, a bit sidelined this month. If you feel like external conditions are forcing you into what you might feel is solitude, it's not personal, okay? It's like no one's actually trying to hurt you or single you out or alienate themselves from you. It's just that my feeling is that the planetary alignments right now could trigger that feeling inadvertently without knowing it. This here is very, very stressful for Geminis, okay? This dynamic here, this polarity, that T-square we talked about, that T-square that we talked about, okay? So please allow for that, all right? And we know how you like to connect and connect and connect, all right, Gemini? So to be feeling like you're squashed or disconnected or being disconnected, that could be really traumatic at some times. Let's have a look. What are you radiating? Okay, but that's not going to stop you. No effing way. No, with the Ace of Wands here, at least you're, I don't know, I guess you're grabbing the energy and treating it almost like you would do like with a catapult or a slingshot, where my feeling is that, I hope I'm making myself clear. In other words, taking these energies here and harnessing them for your benefit. It's just almost like, that's what I'm feeling here. Almost like some kind of weird, bizarre outer space hockey, or one of those like ball games where you bang balls against the wall. So, sorry, you can reinterpret that however you want. I didn't mean anything by it. I know some people even see that this card having that kind of implications. Please don't read any gender into any of this stuff. This is the Ace of Wands here. This wouldn't be like this unless you'd worked for it and deserved it and earned it. And the opportunity is here for you. It's up to you to grab it. So if you're not radiating this, but it's like in your life, in your world right now, this could be a really good opportunity to take full advantage of these challenging energies and flip them around into your favor. Okay, that's what I think is happening here. And so that's good. To me, that's very encouraging under, what is basically very challenging weather for you right now. What are they radiating? Okay. Well, we've got a Eight of Wands here, Eight of Cups, excuse me, Eight of Cups over here. So they might be living through a very different experience. If they are impacted by the planets, just like we all are, and their experience is that there's kind of a historic moment for them in the relationship where it's time for them to withdraw. Okay, that doesn't mean the end of the relationship, but at this time period, there might be what's going on here. Like if you're normally like interacting, and all of a sudden come into September and these stressors, especially around the dates that I described, where everything starts to feel like it's going like this, and you're totally gonna go for it and you want to make the best of it, but this is happening over here and you're losing them some way, shape, or other. Mostly because of external influences, not necessarily you, not necessarily their fault, but external influences. They might be really deeply struggling with these energies, whoever they are. These energies affect them just as much as they affect you. And they might be really, really struggling to the point where they're figuring out, I need to sort some things out on my own too. If I'm going to be forced into isolation, I'm just going to accept it and go with it. I'm leaving a lot of good stuff behind. It doesn't mean the end of the road, but it means we have to evolve and grow and move on in terms of our love life and our love relationship and the frequencies that I am radiating. So it's a maturation process. My feeling is that these energies here that we just talked about are going to put a lot of pressure on you as an individual, Gemini, and your relationship with an individual, so that the relationship itself is actually quite stressed itself. It doesn't mean it's broken or that it's going to break. It just means that the relationship and you in particular are under duress. Let's put it that way. So it puts the whole crucible under pressure. Okay. So what are you radiating here at the core? Okay. With the Hangman here, my feeling is that this is like an amplification of what we just talked about, where deep in your heart, if you're honest with yourself, you know that this is happening. You can feel it, you can sense it some way, somehow, through your antenna, your emails, your texts, your phones, your voice, what you're hearing and listening to, what you're speaking and radiating outwards. You're sensing the challenges that we just described here. And it's putting you in it feels to me like a very awkward position. Like, despite your enthusiasm and desire to make things good and right, and enjoy the best of your relationship, my feeling is that it's more like, wow, this is really tripping me out. If I'm really honest about it, I'm really tripped out, don't quite know what to do. It's very disorienting, but it's also a deliberate posture that you're holding. It's almost like a defense move where your heart energy, your soul energy is deliberately, let's say, detaching at the soul level, even though you might be all driven to make and do really heroic good things. At the heart level, at the soul level, it looks to me like you are literally detaching yourself as well. Again, probably because of the influence of the energies that we talked about here, which would create an isolation, and it's almost like a forced separation between the two parties, between self and other, between other and self, so that this is forced. Because if you're normally naturally quite comfortable, that's fine. But these pressures that we're talking about, external, are very, very stressful on you, which means on the relationship itself as well. From my perspective, we don't know that. We haven't come to the card yet, but it's disorienting. It means like allowing yourself, what's that, that's a cliche now. Your heart is deliberately saying, we need, dear Gemini, the person who owns me, we need to be very, very comfortable with being uncomfortable right now. Okay. So we're going to get through this and come out the other side towards the end of the month. All right. It's just a defense move. It's not posturing. It's nothing fake. It's just literally being very defensive and protective in a way that doesn't make sense to the logical mind, but from the heart soul perspective, it's the right thing to do. What are they radiating down here at that point? So with the Two of Swords, my feeling is that they're being squashed and squashed into a position where it's becoming more and more difficult for them to actually to figure out and decide what to do or how to do it in the context of the relationship, and how they view you and how they view themselves and how they view the relationship, because we don't know how much value they place on the relationship itself. We're working on the belief, dear Gemini, that you value your other partner. There's a degree of value, or otherwise you wouldn't be together, whatever it is. But question is, how much are you aware of the broader dynamic of the relationship, the crucible, the full spectrum, and the structure itself, as opposed to just you and just them, as though this was like a two-card reading. Okay, it's not a two-card reading. We're going broad spectrum here. So my feeling with the Two of Swords is that in their own way, they are deciding not to decide anything or do anything right now. It's almost like in other words, if you guys are being blown apart like this, to the point where you're just on the fringes of your abilities to keep it together, you're going through your deep down soul defense, protection type of strategies, and they're doing the same thing at their level, And their posture, it's a deliberate choice to decide not to decide anything. In other words, just let things be for now. Let's roll through the month and try to get through this without getting hurt, so that you don't hurt them and they don't hurt you, or you don't damage the relationship itself, okay? And from their perspective, it looks like they are choosing to decide not to decide. And that's okay, and that's a good decision. You're allowed to do that. You don't have to force a decision just because you want and demand outcomes and results right now. Okay, so what's going on here at the core? Let's see. Oh, okay, with the Page of Pentacles here, my feeling is that it's like you're both doing the best you can. The relationship is doing the best it can under the circumstances. And the thing is that the circumstances, in some ways, are very, very stressful and alienating, both for you and for the significant other, which puts a lot of pressure on the relationship itself. But I don't see any harm here. I just see a degree of innocence, a degree of awareness where both parties and yourself have to admit that there's a lot you don't know yet. There's a lot that you don't understand. There's a lot that has not been figured out and cemented and solidified and incorporated in terms of solid structure, what it really means for you in your relationship with each other, and that, well, the relationship would like to continue and advance and grow from this point without blowing up. Thank you very much. That's what I'm kind of sensing here. To me, this is reassuring. To me, this gives a sense of stability. Like, this does not give me a lot of stability here. This looks to me very stressful, especially when we add in this here and we throw in a sprinkle of all of this stuff. And then what does that look like at the relationship? When I see this here, to me, this looks like, well, you must be doing something right in the relationship. They must be doing something right. For the relationship energy to radiate something as, let's say, encouraging and hopeful and solid and reliable as this. It's got a long way to go. I would say that the page here is, let's say, it's just like admitting it to me. Like, let's basically admit here that the relationship is under stress, and we've got resources. We're invested up to a point, but the reality is right now the relationship is so stressed that it's exposing like all the worst aspects that could exist in the relationship, whatever those are for you. You, Gemini, can create a whole list of that if you want to. It might be an indication here that this is a very, very good time to take full advantage of all these stressful dynamics, to understand what is it that needs to that you guys need to learn and grow and understand and mature out of this relationship going forward once the so-called let's say the weather turns, where the weather turns more in your favor, so you can get back into a healthier flow again. What about the momentum? What does that look like over here? Well, it's like, well, you wish. They call this the wish card. Some people do. I see it as an indication that it's really, really important that both of you focus on yourselves right now. Each of you as individuals take full advantage of things blowing up some way. I mean, if you're living through what's that expression? Putting a face on it, or if you're living, if you're going through the motions, if you're going through the motions of a relationship as if everything is just fine, like there's absolutely no issues here. You're still doing everything in the three-dimensional practical senses that you're used to doing, whatever it is: cars, schools, colleges, kids, marriages, divorces, credit cards, health, whatever it might be, cooking, just chores of life or whatever. And those become like habits of self-undoing, or habits that have become deeply ingrained that have not been examined recently, and they could be the source of undoing. In other words, because of what happens is with a lot of people in relationships, once they have established their standard protocols, they have a tendency to like put everything they can onto autopilot so that they don't have to think anymore or grow or evolve. They can just rest on the relationship and the comforts of the relationship itself, if that makes any sense to you. However, my feeling here is that with the Pisces Virgo polarity, it's a serious wake-up call to have a really close look at what is not working in the relationship. And whoever's, if you want to blame somebody, just take full ownership, Gemini. This is not a couples reading. It's all about you. We're just allowing for a significant other to get you the perspective and the reflection that you need so that you can evolve and grow in your love life and your world. So my feeling here is that this is a really, really good opportunity to have come into full clarity of exactly what is not working for you guys, and in a very blunt, obvious way, and then making a list of it so that you can find out what does work for you, and so you can recapture and recreate some happiness for yourself. Okay? Love thyself. Truly, truly, truly. Even in a relationship, Gemini, love thyself, love thyself, love thyself. And that's the best thing that you can do for your significant other, okay? And then please invite them to do the same thing. In other words, like, okay, we got problems. Yeah, I admit it, we got problems. Let's forget the gender. Okay, forget the gender. Let's forget blame. Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Let's just own the whole thing ourselves. Let's look at our relationship. Let's understand we've got something going that works, okay? But it's obvious that there's a lot of stuff that's out of whack. Let me ask you, since this is my reading, what would work better for you in our relationship? Give me a list, anything that you think is my fault, that I'm doing wrong or whatever. Just get it all out there. And then I'm going to ask you to invite you to do the same, okay? Okay, if that's what you want. That's part of my spiritual evolution. If you want it, okay, I got it. I still love you. We still got all this history, but I need to move on and grow. Well, what do you think I want to do too? Duh. So you invite that in, like take advantage of the stressors right now and have an honest conversation, and allow that you're in very, very defensive postures right now, and protect yourselves and come into this very, very kindly, gently, and compassionately and say, okay, let's just be honest. We've got work to do. I've got work to do on myself. Well, I'm letting you know you've got work to do on yourself too. Well, I was just about to say, yeah, I know I have work to do on myself. It's very obvious, but I'm just going to let you know you got a lot of work to do too. And you say, I know that already. I'm already on it. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, I was just going to say, let's make a list. Let's figure this out, okay? Because I want to be happy, and I want to be happy, and I want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want you to be happy. Well, I want you to be happy, and I want our relationship to be happy, okay? And that means starting with us. Focus on yourself, Gemini. Focus on yourself right now. Have a really good, clear look at who you are, what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it with this person in this relationship, okay? And please make the best of that. I hope this helps you in some way. Have a super month. Those are the dates again. Let me just show you. September 2nd, September 16th, September 30th. I picked out those dates just for you. Okay, bye-bye.